All right, season 2's out. Not seeing a lot of people talk about it. Let's keep this show on the air. Everybody go watch it. What is up, Flick fans? Welcome back to my channel. Doom Patrol Season 2 episodes 1 through 3 are now on HBO Max. Today we're going to talk about those episodes. I'm going to start out with no spoilers, just giving you guys my overall thoughts just in case you haven't seen them. As soon as I dive in, I'll let you know I want to talk some Doom Patrol. If you enjoy these weekly reviews is what I'm hoping to start doing, let me know by hitting that thumbs up button and comment your thoughts on these episodes. We may do them, we may not, we'll see. Okay, let's get into this season. So episode 1 of season 2 is called Fun Size Patrol. As Larry tends to miniaturize Doom Patrol, Jane and Cliff learn about the enigma that is Dorothy. Meanwhile, Rita seeks Vic's help on maximizing her abilities, and Niles makes a huge sacrifice in an effort to enlarge his shrunken friends. I think the biggest overall question is, does Season 2 still have that magic, have that flavor that everyone loved from the first season? Because let's face it, this is unlike any other superhero show on television. I'm not going to say it's the craziest, maybe the trippiest show like Legion. There are plenty of efforts out there that are a bit crazier than this per se, but this is a mix of so many different genres. You have comedy, you have drama, you have thriller-esque aspects. Sometimes things are horrifying. You could throw horror in there, but most of all, or the most important element of the show, I would say, is the emotion, is when they explore what happened in the past, how that kind of plays into the future, and how it plays into what they're going through right now at the beginning of Season 2. Because we saw that cliffhanger at the end of Season 1, and we start out, and pretty much everybody is small except for one or two characters, and just the adventures that come within that world. And then when things expand and we go back into reality, things are crazy this season. Some of the villains as flashy and colorful as you can imagine, and we do still have that touch that we loved in Season 1, the fact that we're going back and exploring what makes them them. How the influence that they had to go through, the suffering that they had to go through comes back into play now, and what Niles did to them that was revealed at the end of Season 1, and how they're all coping with that, and the fact that they're still together, and there's a lot of tension within the group. Doom Patrol has always been this mix of crazy and interesting characters that don't always tend to get along, but we finally started to get more of a family feel at the end of Season 1, which was great, and I like seeing that. And then you see that twist, and you're like, oh, things aren't as good as they seem. And we come back into Season 2, and the tension has never been higher between these characters. And the first 3 episodes really showcase what I love about the show. Now, I will say, as we get into Episode 3, there is almost a convoluted nature to all of the different storylines going on, and you could have made that critique with Season 1 as well. A lot of things happening at once, and we're going back and forth between stories, but not only stories, between different time periods, different years, because we have Rita in the present, Rita in the past, we have Crazy Jane in the present, Crazy Jane in the past, Robot Man, present, past. You see what I'm trying to say here, and we get that again, and as we progress throughout this season, that may get a bit too much for some. It may feel like it loses focus, but I was still thoroughly impressed with most of the storylines throughout these first 3 episodes, and I can't wait to see where we progress to. So, like I said, quick synopsis of my thoughts so far. Really enjoying the show up until this point, and I think you guys have to go check this out if you are fans of Season 1. They're on HBO Max, and I believe the next episode is coming next week, so we'll talk about it if you guys want to see it. But let's get into a few spoilers here and there. So in Episode 1, we're really dealing with trauma and the traumatic nature of the fact that they are all shrunk. Larry is tending to them, bringing them pancakes. They're trying to figure out, okay, what are we going to do? Are we going to use science to get us bigger? Or are we going to use magic? And with magic always comes a price. So that plays in very well to the first episode. And the introduction of sorts to Dorothy, who is an interesting, a fascinating character. I mean, they all come from a background of, okay, we used to be this, and now we're different, we're something else. But Dorothy, there are still questions about her origins, but her past may be the most traumatic of all of them because she is basically being utilized and used as a circus attraction which is terrifying to say the least. So I loved her introduction. I like how she plays into the team, and she's just the sweetest little girl. Sure, she's got some demons in there that eventually get unlocked, and her friends living inside of her head, so I found that interesting. But overall, I really liked her presence in the show, and I'm interested to find out more of what makes her tick, quote unquote, and how her powers progress. And her relationship with Niles has to be my favorite relationship of this season so far, because it's your classic father-daughter relationship, and you can tell he cares about her, preventing others from cursing in front of her and telling her things are going to be okay, this and that. So love that relationship, loved her introduction. As we go into episode 2, called Time Patrol, that's when we're introduced to one of our first villainous characters, not a huge villain, but definitely a presence in that episode, known as Dr. Time, spelled with a Y. And so you have Cliff, Jane, and Rita pursuing Dr. Time and his time-altering space mineral in their quest to help Niles and Dorothy. So they have to go through this portal to meet up with this crazy disco music-loving guy in Dr. Time, who's gathered a lot of different people from a lot of different time periods, and you see one of the craziest scenes I've ever seen in a superhero show. And their mission is clear. They have to grab this element, something that no one has ever done before. But the way that it progresses is, again, it just fits so perfectly with this show, but it's strange. They end up taking him down pretty easily, to be honest, but they reverse that process. They come home empty-handed. But man, oh man, was that just not a crazy sequence. And we also have Cyborg. I'm not even talking about Cyborg this season yet. Vic is a character who I had to warm up to in Season 1 just because I wasn't huge on the line delivery there, but I warmed up to him, really enjoy his presence this season, and he meets Ronnie, who is a feisty military vet who's challenging him on his beliefs, and then Larry, who comes face-to-face with his past at a funeral, and that was my favorite part of this episode. Larry going to his son's funeral and encountering his other son and really reliving. I mean, this whole show is about reliving your past and how it plays into your present and really your future. And then we start to go in the next episode into when he first arrived at the manor, and we get those interactions between he and Rita. But this episode was great. We get some context into his history with his family. And that wasn't necessarily the most fun part about this episode, but it could have been my favorite part. And then episode 3 in Pain Patrol, in the wake of a terrifying omen, Niles and Rita enter the interdimensional palace of the infamous Red Jack, who feeds on pain and has taken Larry prisoner. Red Jack was a terrifying villain. What comes about when certain things happen, how he goes about himself, just the fear that he instills in the audience. I loved this entire sequence, and again, playing on the pain that they've had to live through and how it goes into now, and Rita and Larry's relationship, which we've gotten plenty of glimpses of up until this point, but they flesh it out even more here, and I really enjoyed that. While that's going down, we have Jane in the underground, which is the world in which she faces her different personalities. That's some of the best acting I've seen this season thus far. She is probably the most impressive in terms of what she has to do, playing multiple different characters within one body. But within the underground, we get different actors playing those characters. So I find that extremely interesting, even though that was probably the weakest aspect of this episode, maybe because they don't focus on it enough for you to really flesh things out, but we will definitely get more in the future. While her mind is there, her body is actually on the bus with Cliff as he's traveling to Florida, who's trying to prove the fact that he's a good father, finally confronting his daughter, and she does not want anything to do with him. And that was absolutely hilarious when he starts beating up on the bus and the two police officers are standing there just like, listen, there's nothing we can do. It's his property. But they stay and keep an eye on him, and the jokes back and forth I thought worked really well. Man, Brendan Fraser is so good in this role. In terms of acting, I would probably have to give it to Crazy Jane, but Robot Man is my favorite character by far, and just his amount of cursing, some may say it's overboard, but it's hilarious. It just adds so much to the comedy, and it's the fact that Brendan Fraser is the one standing there saying it, so I found that to be so funny. But the real terrifying aspect of this episode is Dorothy's game of hide and seek and how that turns out badly. So yeah, a lot of things going on in episode 3, what I was talking about earlier, when there may be one too many storylines in these first couple of episodes. But that's really my only criticism, guys. We're back in this world. They have thrown us back into the place that we love living, and they're giving us, I believe, one of the most special superhero shows we've ever gotten. Maybe, right? Like I said, I like this more than Teen Titans. The fact that we're not getting Swamp Thing anymore is a big bummer. But Doom Patrol continuing on HBO Max. If you guys would like to see me cover episode 4 next week, please let me know. And then at the end, we'll recap this season and talk more about it. Any ideas you have down below for sure. And smash that thumbs up button if you would like to see more. Appreciate you guys for watching. Let me know which episode was your favorite out of this batch in the comments. And I'll see you soon.